Hey everybody, thank you for joining me today in this great afternoon. This is Mr. Walter and we are around the world with Mr. Walter. So thank you for joining. We have got a great show for you today. We are going to ancient places built in rock. So we are going to explore different places around the world in which ancient cultures had this great innovation, which is building caves right onto the rock. But also, there's not only ancient people that did this, even some modern techniques on how this was done. So I hope that you're coming in. I hope that you're hearing me okay. We are going to start exploring the different areas and places, ancient places built in the rock. So let me just check the chat, and I want to say hi to everybody that's already on the chat, and just make sure that everybody's is hearing me okay, and just making sure that everybody's here. So thank you for being this great Monday afternoon, and we're just gonna kind of move along and start exploring some of the great places and ancient places built in rock. So all right, let's start exploring for today. So I'm going to move right out and start like every day. We're going to start with the globe and see where some of these places are. So as we can see, the places all over the place, and we'll be able to actually kind of take and see some of these around the world. So here we are. We are right here in Dallas, Texas, and as you can see, there's a few places. There's the Mesa Verde National Park, so we'll go there. We will go to the Gila Cliff Dwellings, another national monument, which is by the Rocky Mountains. I think it's by Colorado. Then we're going to go all the way down to Chile in Ventanillas de Otusco. So that's another place that we'll go. So we'll get down. So we're right here. This is Texas in the United States. Here's Canada. There's Mexico, Central America. Here's the Caribbean. Here's Cuba and everything. We will kind of move right here, right down. This is South America. We have Chile, Peru, Colombia, Brazil. Then if we go across the Atlantic, there's a lot of places in Europe and the Middle East. So there's a few in Italy. There's other ones in Turkey. It's right here. Then obviously in Petra, which is in Egypt. Then we'll go to some of the other places close to Russia. Then we'll go to India, and then perfect. That is awesome. All right, so this is we're going to be moving in and out and actually seeing some of these great places. So as we move along, we'll kind of just start doing our first, and the first place is when we go to Petra and in Jordan, and we're just going to fly right down. We'll be able to see it. So this is a really interesting and I think one of the most modern ones that we could see, which is it's a historical place in Jordan. The UNESCO World Heritage Site features the ornate tombs and temples. So it's dated all the way back to 300 BC, carved into pink sandstone cliffs. So imagine that we have all the great cliffs right here, all the pink sandstone, and we can see that it's just carved right into the rock. So if we see a full picture, now we can see a full picture, and you see how ornate and the full building just carved right into the rock. So an incredible place here, that how we kind of look around and see some of these places. So we have the full area here in Petra, and we're just gonna look around so we see all the cliffside. So it's really interesting, some of the camels right there as well. one of the interesting things that this place, and maybe you have seen it before, it's part of a movie set of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. So they rode up to Petra, and they had this great, the great temple that we see here, carved right on the rock. As we kind of take a quick look right around the area, and that is the canyon in which you have to ride in, and you see all the limestone, the pink limestone, which is a little bit softer, and you see some of the additional chambers right to the side. But an incredible place here in Petra as we take a quick look at the historical place in Jordan, which is this Petra Cathedral, and one of the world's heritage sites, constructed and built by the Nabatean kingdom in 300 BC. So an incredible place here that we're going to start. So let's kind of move right back. And where is Jordan anyways? As we kind of just, turn right back out. So Jordan, it's right here, right in the, we're in the Middle East, and we have, here's Africa, and here's the rest of the, right on the top is Turkey, parts of Europe. So the first place that we actually seen today is just that, an incredible historical palace here in Jordan, as we kind of move back and see some of the great areas that we have. So let's kind of move along and let's see where the next place is. The next place is in Mesa Verde. This is the National Park of Montezuma Country in Colorado. So what's really interesting about this one, as you can see, and we'll fly down just a quick second, is that this one in particular was built right over an overhang. So it was built over an overhang, and you have all the rest of the ruins, but it was built just like a shelter. So using all that natural infrastructure, and then having all those buildings right in the middle, that provides a great, really interesting place as well. So let's go to Colorado and fly all the way down as we turn the world, and we dive right in to the Mesa Verde National Park. So another one of the national parks, and we can take a quick look at the canyon, as well as some of the tourists that are waiting, and they see there's a tour guide. But you can see that we're right underneath that great rock that provides all the shelter, and you can see how they built all the way through and bringing just great places. And you can see also how the craftsmanship of some of the adobe complete structures, and having the windows as well. So the Mesa Verde the national park in the Montezuma County in Colorado. So it's another great area. So as you can see, some of the incredible places of building and habitats made right against the rock. So a fun and interesting place here in Colorado. Great, so where are we specifically, and where is Colorado? So let's kind of move right back out and stop right there, maybe just a little bit back. And as we turn the world, we see that we were just right here in Mesa Verde National Park. So let's get our bearings here. We have Florida, we have New York, then we have Canada all the way up, then California right here. Here we are in the middle in Texas, and we were just right there in Mesa Verde National Park. It is ancestral Puebloans built the 600 elaborate homes in the cliffs during the 12th century. So 600 elaborate homes, just a full community that was built right on the rock, and ancestral Puebloans in this great area. So it is incredible, I think, that even though we still think that we lived in caves so many years ago, but we are actually have that these natural structures also provide shelter, and we have used them before in general for us to move in use. So let's go to the next spot. I think we're going to go right down the same area, but let's see where we go. So actually we're going to fly across the way, and we're going to go to Turkey. And in Turkey, there's these great structures in Cappadocia. So in Cappadocia, it's a Bronze Age inhabitants just dug these fairy chimneys, kind of just straight up that actually look like towers. And these caves in a huge underground city that is a noteworthy landscape. Later, a haven for early Christians. So an incredible place as we take a quick look before we dive in and see if we can get the there we go. So you can see how these chimneys were built right on the rock. Not only did they build in how they hollow out the full section, but also you can see that they capped it. And once they capped it, they were able to actually have the airflow from the area, and they just kind of go straight up. Also at night, when the mist would come in, it would also cool it down. So it's an incredible work of how airflow it starts moving back and forth here in this incredible place in Cappadocia in Turkey. So let's fly across the world and let's go all the way to see the site in Turkey and take a kind of quick 360 look around on some of these places. So as you can see how the chimney caps were actually done. They're called fairy chimneys, and you can see how they were pointed as well. So they're pointed in order to actually provide better rain and snow coverage. So it just kind of slides right off. But you can actually see some of the built-in homes openings, and we can see as well as we cross and kind of move around, we see some of the rooms that were built, not only used for in the Bronze Age, but also used for early Christians right here in Turkey. See what a great landscape, and obviously using the natural landscape as part of the full infrastructure. So as we kind of move along, we can actually take a look at the full savanna of just the full desert area, and we can see how it just had that jagged edges all around, and some of the great habitats that we have. As we explore a little bit more from today's episode, which is how human beings use natural structures and rock to live for hundreds of years. So today we're looking at several places. We've gone to Colorado already. We've gone to Turkey, that we are now. We've gone to Jordan. So we have gone to several places around the world to actually see how some humans and early settlers actually worked and did that. So it's great. So whoever's in, thank you for watching. Thank you, Nikki, for being out here, and just make sure that you say or send me something in the chat. We're always happy to see you and being able to just kind of interact with you as we kind of go through the world. Let's move right back out from Turkey, and Turkey is right there. And if you're getting your bearings, here's Italy, there's Greece, here's Turkey. And we're going to move along and go to our next place, which is, on our tour of places that people live. So we'll go all the way to India. So we're going to fly India, and we go to the Ellora Caves. This is a tourist attraction in Verul, India, and it's stretching over 2 kilometers. This is another one of the UNESCO sites featuring 34 ornate monasteries and temples carved into volcanic rock from 600 to 1000 years AD. So it's an incredible. Just imagine that 2 kilometers of just complete sites of 32 ornate monasteries and temples carved right onto the rock. So again, as we kind of look over and we see, you will take just a quick look, but you see how the the waterfall was used as well, and then we're just gonna go right in front. A great way of having water available, and then we'll see all the great rock that was carved out into different into different habitats and rooms and so forth. So let's fly down there because there's something really interesting about this particular site, which I thought it was a marvel of architecture. Is we can definitely see how the rock was, the rock face right here was done. But I want you to take a quick look of the columns. So as we look at the columns and as we look at the steps, you see the symmetry and how perfectly cut those were. Not only the roof, but also, the walls. Perfectly squared, and the doorways squared as well. And you can see how the columns were also cut in ornate forms right out of the rock. So as we kind of take a quick look and see how this incredible place, then you see also how the floor was also carved in order to actually have the water being moving back and forth. So, and it's an incredible also area of just how the water could flow and have it ready available for the citizens and for the people who actually lived here. So another incredible place here in India, in how the caves, the Ellora cave, and the full area here of how they did, ornate monasteries and temples carved right out of rock. You see how the rock staircase as well. So an incredible place, and let's see if we can take a quick look around as well. As you can see all the carvings, and across the way, I think we also see some of the arches and more of the stairwells that were actually cut right up from the rock. So another great, incredible place that we see here, just some tourist attraction in Verul, India. Some other caves that were carved right out of the rock. So an incredible. So you see how that opens up and how it was just carved throughout, and having all the water also coming through. All right, so we've gone to 4 different places already. We've gone to, we've been in India, Turkey, we've gone in the United States in Colorado, we've been already to the Jordan, and we've seen how in different places humanity and ancient civilizations used the natural structures to carve themselves areas right against the rock face in different places. So not just the traditional caves that we might see, but also just very elaborate areas as we look through places on Earth where ancient places built right on the rock. So we are just right here in India, and we're going to take our next step moving forward to the next destination. So the next destination is, understandably in New Mexico at the Gila Cliffs Dwellings National Monument. So this is another one of those sites that was actually used in some of the movies from Indiana Jones as he was exploring these different places. We're going to go across the world, and we're able to see some of the places in the national park. And you can see, as this picture shows, how not only they use the ancient cave structure, but also start putting walls around it. So using the natural structure and then building around it to actually be able to live comfortably inside of all these rock formations. So this place in New Mexico is the Mongol people built interlocking dwellings in a natural caves high above the Gila River, and it was used during 13th and 14th century. So what's really interesting about this one in particular is how they were interlocking the different dwellings. That way you could go in one and then just move around, just like you were in a building that we have today. So moving from one place to another, but within the full structure. So let's fly to New Mexico, again across the world, and we'll just land right here at the National Monument, the Gila Cliff, and we'll be able to see some of the great interesting points. Now, this is a cliff face, so that's one of the interesting points. You know, you have before we have seen some of the temples built right onto the rock, but this one was built right onto the face of a cliff. So we'll actually look out and you'll see how high we are. You know, we are like about, I would say, a good 30, 50 feet up from the rock face, and you see the canyon and how they built they took advantage of the full area to kind of just build inside and having these interlocking chambers that overlooked the Gila River. So that's a few times that we've seen this, that is very close to the water, obviously, to be able to do. But in case of India, the water was flowing on top and landed very close to the temples, and then there were aqueducts that were built and carved out so the water can move across. So it was really interesting as well. So we'll move just a little bit further in, and you can see how not only the walls were built as well, but it just kind of moves right along. You can definitely see how people would walk out into the open areas within the cliffside and then just go into some other dwellings. Great place. Now some of them have to now, you have to climb by a ladder, but before, the full area had these walkways in which you would have the inhabitants move back and forth. So very pretty place here in the Gila Cliff in the National Monument in New Mexico. So what is one of the favorite things that you've seen? How interesting is that? You know, having this as we explore the dwellings of different people around the world that have used the rock and the rock faces and the rock formations so they can actually build a shelter. So, and it's in a very interesting place. So we are now in New Mexico. So we are right here in New Mexico. Here's the United States. We are right here in that national monument as we keep taking a tour of ancient places built right on the rock. So we have several more places that we'll go. We have been to already to India. We've gone to 2 places here in the United States, in Colorado and Mesa Verde, and the Gila Cliff here in New Mexico. We'll move right next, and now we'll go right back to Turkey, and that is one of the most interesting formations and one of the most elaborate, which is called the Tombs of the Kings. So the Tomb of the Kings in Turkey, it has the Lycian kings, a nearby ruined city of Kaunos, were buried, and the kings in these ornate cliff-face tombs, which date about 400 BC. So look at that incredible picture that have been taken as you kind of look over and see the tombs of the kings that were just right against the cliff face. some of them smaller and some of them bigger. But again, back to the same, real interesting how they were cut right from the rock, how they were just completely worked and have all these columns be made as the full rock formation was carved out for tombs of the kings in Turkey. So let's kind of fly out there and take a quick 360-degree, just a full view of this area. So as we take a quick look and you see the front river, you see right across some of the tombs just against the rock face. Here's a few ones, and there's some more right there. And what I find really interesting about them is that you see how, maybe I'll show you this one. See how it was just first cut in a full area, so you actually see almost like a small lining of a roof. So it was cut deep, and then it was carved out, and the full building's face was carved out. So an incredible feat of engineering and a great workmanship as all these different tombs were carved out, and then in this height, right up against the rock face. So we are here looking through our photosphere at the Elysian Kings tombs in Turkey. Some of these are historical places that date about 400 BC, and they were cut right into the face, providing all the different tombs for the kings. So an incredible area as we kind of pan around and you see how big those are right across the bay. Wow. All right. So let's kind of keep on moving, and we'll go to the next stop, and we'll go to Italy. So as we take a quick look, we're right here, and here's Turkey, and this is what we're looking at. And now we're just going to fly right back down to the Sassi di Matera in Italy. So this inhabited since the Paleolithic period, this hilltop town. So it consists of an ancient cave network containing homes and churches in many historical eras. So this is one of these great sites in which not only did it have all the ancient cave network, but from then on it kept on being built, and now we have a full historical place in Matera, Italy. So let's take a look, and you can definitely see how, if you look at the back, all the rock formation, and now you see the full kind of city in the full town, also kind of using all the same kind of rock that has been made, but underneath it, it has all these caves and rock formations. So it's really interesting how not only it was settled at some point, but then it actually kept on growing, and as modern age came to be, buildings kind of rose from the same places where these habitats were. So let's kind of just fly right down Italy and also take a quick 360 look around of these great place. You also see that we are pretty high up against in one of the cliff sides, but this one has been completely done, and we'll be able to walk around just a few blocks as we take a look. So let's go down the block, and let's kind of look around first, and you can see how the structure were also made of stone, and all the quarry was also done. But you can see how the cliffside kept on being right at the edge, and some of these buildings were actually carved right out, and then kind of kept being carved out of the full rock face. And I think this is a great picture right here. You see the bridge and this the road, which has been carved right onto the rock, and you see some of the pillars that were right underneath as well. That just kind of letting you know that right across and right underneath there's been all these places where habitats have been made right out from the rock. So just not your traditional caves, but also it also provides some of the great areas. As you can see across as well, some of the openings of older structures and older habitats as they were kind of built right into the rock, and now we have a full town. So let's kind of walk down the street because I want to take a closer look at that structure right there, which is really interesting, which is, see if I can go. That is specifically, so you can see how the buildings, in even the modern ones, were carved out. So we see that the rock formation inside is a network of caves, but as time has gone on, all the workmanship has improved, and then now we have actual buildings carved right on the edge of the rock. So not your, like, again, not your typical cave, but you can definitely see the full structure of how that has been done. So thank you, Kristen, for joining, and thank you, Nikki, for being here. And I see you guys on the chat as we're taking a quick look at different places where habitats were made and built right on the rock face. We are now in Matera, Italy, and we're looking over at this hilltop town that sits on an ancient cave network containing homes and churches and all these areas as well. So an incredible place here in Italy. So let's kind of pan out and move out from where we are. We are right here, right at the edge of the boot in Italy. So let me just turn the world around so we see it just naturally as we see it. So we are right there, right here. There's Greece, here is France, there's Spain, then we have the rest of Europe as we kind of look around, and we are actually here in Sassi di Matera in Matera, Italy, just a great hilltop town that was built from ancient rock and has cave networks right underneath it. So modern day. We have gone to several places already. So we've gone to Colorado, we've gone to New Mexico in the United States, then we have gone to Jordan, we have gone to Turkey, we're now in Italy, and now we're just going to keep on moving and looking at some of the other great areas. So we are going to go the History Museum in Georgia, and we will look at, what is this, the first built in 1000 BC. This now abandoned cave network was once a thriving pre-Christian hub. So just an incredible structure of the Upland Shrine in History Museum in Georgia. We will take a look, and you can definitely see how this has that very ancient 1000 BC feel. It has this, but it has the same kind of a overall idea, which is you have the full cave network, and then the hillside is being used and carved out so it can make for shelter. And this one is in particular interesting because they have carved out a walkway. You see the little bridge, now it has a railing, but you can actually see the little walkway, as probably these areas were used for either farming, like we saw in Tikal, and we see some other places like Machu Picchu, and now it's been abandoned, but you can actually see how this had become just a major hub of intersection and transit. So let's take a quick look. Again, we see some of these great structures and how the full rocks were built to withstand the time. It has a different feel from what we've seen in some other places, and you can see that the smaller rocks were built and stacked together, but we can definitely take a quick look and see how they used the openings right into the larger rocks and just carved it out. And what's really interesting is that most of us think that all caves have that round entryway. No, not really. Some of the most of these ancient sites have these square entryways as well that kind of use, and you can see the size of it, right? Easily 10 or 12 feet as we kind of keep on looking and seeing this full area here in Georgia. All right, so we are way at the edge of the Middle East. As we kind of move right back out, we have a few more places left which we can start exploring. And let's go to our next place, which is, you know, the introductory of the introductory place that we had in the initial picture, which is the Ventanilla, the Ventanilla de Otusco in Peru. So the Ventanilla of Otusco, it's another one of these great sites that provides a full overview of how the ancient people would carve in different levels. It almost looks like an apartment building, but one of the interesting points that this one has is that it has walkways. So not only does it have like the little rooms that you have, like the one that you see right here, which has a window and another window, but right underneath it, you can see that there's a walkway and also stairs. They're going upstairs. So it's a marvel of how to actually carve on rock a full complex that actually looks like a modern apartment building. So let's kind of fly there. Well, actually, we're already here, and we'll take a quick look. These ancient tombs carved by a pre-Inca people resemble small windows in the rock face. As we can see, this full area was carved out. Let's actually take a quick and closer look at some of these places. See, it's just an incredible network, you know, ancient tombs that were carved right in the rock. And again, one of the interesting things that I keep seeing as we kind of walk and look, you see how the windows and these tombs were all square and had right angles all across. And I think one of the interesting point is you also have a frame around them. So in this one, in this picture in particular, you actually see some of the grooves that were cut right alongside. So in a very interesting way, in just a huge place of ancient tombs that were carved by a pre-Inca people, just resemble small windows around the rock face. So it's very interesting how, again, ancient civilizations used not only the rock face, but you can see way up there as well, to resemble some of the modern buildings with some of the incredible feats of engineering and feats of craftsmanship to be able to carve this out of rock. So we are in Peru as we kind of winding down some of our different areas. We have two more, and then we'll kind of move right along and have some additional announcements. And we are now just going to see exactly where we are. So we are here in Peru. So Peru is right here. So this is Central America. There's the Galapagos Islands. Here we have Brazil. Up here's Colombia. Here's Chile. There's Peru. So great place here in South America. Now we're just going to fly right back out to the Middle East, and we'll go to the Barditzia, a monastery in Georgia, in which is another one that was carved right onto the rock. So as we take a quick look, you see how, now mind you, this was like this, and it was carved out, and now it's being kept as a monastery. You can see all the the edges that were done, all the cuts to have the wooden planks that would go right over this section. There's been rails being added, but you can also see some of the additional rock formations and all the additional carvings that have been done. So let's fly to this monastery in Georgia and be able to actually look around. It was built in the 12th century in an elaborate cave monastery featuring a church and notable frescoes, which is paintings that also were there, and 224 rooms carved right on the rock. So there's a huge place here at this monastery, 224 rooms, as we can take a quick look again against the rock face, and you see how high we are. So this monastery just overlooking the Bardzia is a great example of the tour that we're taking today, which is ancient colonists and ancient people just opening up and using the rock face as places of habitat. So we take a quick look around as we see how high, and I think that's a great picture right there. You see how one level, then the second level, and you actually see the ramps that even though now you have all the guardrails, you can definitely see how in that time it was carved out, and then it kept on going up, up, and up. So a very interesting, great place. It's a 12th century elaborate cave monastery featuring a church and 224 rooms. So whenever you think of caves now, don't think of it just the traditional caves. Think of all these great places that were built that still exist, that were done so many years ago, but now have this great look as being discovered, just like this monastery right against the cliffside. All right, we're going to fly to one more place and then to make some announcements. And we're going to go back to Turkey, to the Mira Ruins, a historical place in Turkey, and we'll see just how pretty this is. Just as you look across, I think this is a perfect example of the type of tour that we're taking today across the world, finding great places and ancient places that were carved right out of the rock face. So we're back in Turkey as we take a quick look at the full opening. So this ruins dating back to 400 BC, and this cliffside complex on Lycian tombs was once painted in bright colors and still holds some of the stone figurines. So as you can see, not only do they use all the buildings and block formations, but you can see how the full tombs were carved right out of the rock again, having what we have seen in several countries, not only the lower levels, but as they winds up. And again, a great example of how they would carve just into the rock and then just carve the face right through with elaborate workmanship. Again, if you take a quick look, not only did they carve it on a square, but it would carve right on to carve the actual columns, which, mind you, the rock didn't need the column structure since this was already solid, but they were carved as a representation and homage to the people who are buried right through. Was also painted in bright colors, and you can still see some of that color that comes through today. So an incredible place here in Turkey, the Mira Ruins, as we pan out, and we can see how that was just carved right alongside the rock. All right, we have traveled several different places. So mostly we've been to 3 or 4 places here in Turkey. So we actually been to 3 places in Turkey. We've gone to Italy, we've gone to Jordan, we've gone to Peru. We have gone to several places here in the United States, and we have gone to India as well, as we have traveled to ancient places built in the rock. And we just take a quick look, as you see right up here, the Maya ruins in Turkey. Great historical place dating back to 400 BC. Another cliffside complex of tombs that were painted in bright colors. Really, really interesting. So, as you know, and thank you for joining me. We only have a few more minutes left, but I wanted to let you know that we are starting this week with the Masters of the Dungeonverse Online. We have the Star Wars role-playing game. I'll be running some of the games. Mr. Adam will be running again some of the games. We have games playing at the Edge of the Empire. We'll be playing with Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. And you can see some of the schedules that we have. Younger kids from 8 to 11 will be playing from 2 to 3:30, as well as older kids from 12 to 16 will be playing from 4 to 5:30. So we'll be trying to just kind of gear everybody up. We have to put a stop on some of our programs over the last couple of weeks, but we want to start that right back up. So we're going to be playing the Star Wars Edge of the Empire role-playing games coming up, and having sessions all throughout the week. So make sure you check that out, and make sure that you sign up, as we're going to be starting soon some of these great adventures. So again, thank you for joining. I'm Mr. Walter, and you've been around the world with Mr. Walter. We have a few other activities that are coming up. So at 3 o'clock, we have the STEAM train. Students from 3rd to 5th grade with live STEAM lessons and learnings with Mr. Dorian. That's fun activities as well. Then at 4 o'clock, we have from the Numi Vault, we have students from K to 5th grade. That's Mr. Ben, who's using classic puzzles and brain twisters presented in a live interactive manner. So that's also a lots of fun. Make sure you check those out. And at 5 o'clock, for all you parents who we're all parents and having our kids spending our time during this, make sure that you check out the closing messages and announcements. This at 5 o'clock with Mr. Justin here in New Minds TV. So remember, and thank you for tuning in to Real Inspired Learning. Remember, always pursue your passion. My passion, as you know, is role-playing and playing games, not only physically but online. And we're going to be starting the Star Wars role-playing game pretty soon. So make sure that you and your kids join in to have lots of fun. Make sure you remember to pursue your passion, and it will become your talent. So this is Mr. Walter. Stay tuned. Just in a few more minutes, we'll have Mr. Dorian with the STEAM train, having lots of fun. Enjoy the rest of the day, and have a great afternoon.